So recently I needed to move some furniture around and I didn't have a team of people to help me out. It was just me. So I put together two of these homemade dollies in order to help me move this rather large side table or credenza, whatever it's called. And I think it's a pretty fun little project and fairly useful. And each of these dollies, if you look at Ace Hardware or something like that, or True Value, whatever's near you, costs about $50 a pop, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more. So it might be worth putting them together if you have some moving coming up. And it's a pretty easy design to scale if you need to move something larger or smaller. So basically it's a fairly simple thing, right? It's just a spinning table with 4 casters on the bottom. You could build it up or build it down depending on how big the stuff you want to move is and how strong you want the dolly to be. These ones only had to support maybe 100 pounds each. They could carry a lot more than that, but I didn't want to overbuild them. I just wanted something fairly simple. So the project itself is going to vary. I mean, it's going to depend largely on the casters you have. You could buy some really nice ones from a online woodworking shop or from Home Depot, what have you, and casters go up to very big and very high ratings. And if you want larger wheels to get over a rug, or if you want anti-skid wheels so that they don't leave any little marks on the floor, stuff like that. I happen to have these casters around. A couple weeks ago, I built up, I guess a couple months ago at this point, I built up these cedar elevated planters. They came with pretty nice casters. So I had them sitting around and I figured they would be perfect application for this. Just a ball bearing caster. It seems to be stainless steel, nice hard rubber wheel. Maybe it's plastic, hard to tell, but definitely enough for my purposes. And it's got 4 rotating wheels, 2 with brakes, so you could step on this and break it, which is perfect. And very simple hardware here. They just go direct onto the surface because they're meant to screw in. So I had to figure out bolts and all that. So it took a little bit of time to figure that out, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so here's the first dolly. I did 2 different designs just because I was playing around and using scrap wood. They're about the same size and about the same height. I wasn't too worried about that, but I like this size. Design-wise, they're fairly different. Okay, this is just stick-on carpeting I used for some garage project lying around, just like tiles I had extra. Then I have here, this is just some nice 3/4 plywood I had, again, lying around. I had strips, so I got the 2 pieces. I glued them together, and then I had drilled the holes here. I bolted them down to the top of this. Then I had extra wainscoting that didn't get used in a previous project, or it was extra. And then I drilled through the wainscoting, whatever, bolted it down, have a nice flat surface here, and then I glued this down. I didn't tack it down or anything like that, but basically glued this to this. This has holes in it. Inside that hole is the bolt. It's bolted to this, and it's pretty good. I like this design a lot because it's very simple, and the 2 sets of boards, the 2 layers are perpendicular to one another, so you don't have to worry about this thing cracking. And then this is not a stress point because you have 3/4 by plywood that is going in the opposite direction. So no problems there. I'd say that's design 1. And if you have plywood lying around, then that's a pretty good thing. A good dolly, it should stand up on its own. So this is not something I took into account. So it stands up this way, but not the other way. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're a perfectionist, you really want this table to stand on its side. Okay, here's the second design. This is a fair bit lighter, which if you want a nice light dolly, if you're gonna be carrying this thing around a lot, it's something to keep in mind. I don't think it's quite as strong, but again, a lot lighter. And this is probably an easier design to build based on the scraps people have lying around, but maybe not. So same casters here. This one relies on scrap 2x4. And then it has that same wainscoting here. This could have been A probably better choice would have been that 3/4 inch plywood, but I didn't have a lot of that. So I ended up using that wainscoting there. And you can see why the design is so light. It's just 2 pieces of plywood and the cross members relying on this. So I wouldn't put quite as much weight on this, but again, it's like nice 1/2 inch wainscoting wood. So it's fine for standing on or putting like a refrigerator on or something like that. Same casters. The plywood, sorry, the 2x are a little hard to work with since the caster only extends probably about this far in. So I had to cut in there with a, just like a paddle bit, get this through, put a washer in, bolt it down. Not really a big deal, but it takes some specialized hardware since you had to do a little bit wider than a 1/2 inch hole. I had the nuts. I happened to have the nuts for this. It didn't come with it. It was just meant to screw in. You might need some washers and nuts or whatever. And then, yeah, so I just screwed this to this, made a nice kind of stable sandwich there, and then put that scrap there. This one is maybe, I don't know, 4 pounds, 5 pounds. This one's maybe 6 or 7, something like that. They both spin really well. This one is a little bit easier to move around. It's probably even a little bit too easy to move around, so it'll kind of drift a little bit as you're trying to position it. Either way, this is stuff I made out of the garage, out of scrap. And if you had to buy it, it'd be maybe like $10 worth of stuff instead of spending $50+ on a Dolly. So there you go, fun project and fairly useful. Thanks for watching.